You have a stump sitting in your yard right now, maybe more than one, and you have looked at it the way you look at a problem that costs money to solve, with a kind of tired patience hoping it will just get smaller on its own. It will not. What if you did not need to hire anyone? What if the right preparation, done once, with tools you already own, was enough to break that stump down to something you can kick apart with your boot? What if the thing slowing you down is not the stump itself, but the way every standard guide tells you to treat it? I have 25 stumps on this property. Hiring a professional grinding service for all of them was not something I was willing to do. I worked through this myself, stump by stump, and I found one method that is faster than anything else I tried. The difference is not which chemical you use. It is how you prepare the wood before you apply anything at all. That is what I want to show you today. Stay with me through this. By the end, you will know exactly what to do this weekend. Now, before I get into the method itself, let me say something about how I got here. I grew up in rural Nagano, Japan, working in my father's rows. He did not own a grinder. He did not call a service. He read the land and worked with what the material gave him. I have been doing the same in my own American backyard for over 30 years. What I am about to show you is not theory. I worked through both methods on real stumps on this property, and I can show you the difference side by side. Now, the stump problem, and there is a real cost buried in it that most people do not account for. A stump is not just an eyesore. Left in the ground, it continues to send up new shoots for years, pulling energy from the root system that is still very much alive. Creates a habitat for carpenter ants, termites, and wood-boring beetles. It takes up space in the bed or the lawn where you could be planting something. A single service call runs between $150 and $400, depending on size. Multiply that across 25 stumps, and you understand why I decided to handle this myself. The first method I tried is the one you will find everywhere online. Drill holes into the top of the stump, typically a grid of holes each about 10 inches deep. Pack those holes with Epsom salt, seal the surface, and wait for decomposition. The theory is sound. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. It draws moisture out of the wood tissue through osmotic pressure. Osmosis, meaning water moves through a membrane toward higher salt concentration, and it disrupts the cell structure of the remaining living tissue. It also creates conditions that favor fungal colonization, which is what actually breaks the wood down over time. The theory is sound. The execution has a problem. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had told you years ago, that is what this channel is. One method, once a week, tested for 30 years before I ever say it out loud. Nothing sold to you. Subscribe if you want the next one. I treated a large oak stump this way, drilled the holes, packed in the salt, covered it to keep rain from washing it out too fast. I came back 4 months later. The stump was still firm. There was new growth, shoots coming up from the root system, green and vigorous, which told me the tree was not dead, only inconvenienced. There were signs of pest activity in the soft areas around the base. The decomposition was minimal. For 4 months of waiting, that was a poor result. Now look at what happened 20 feet away. About 20 feet away, there was another stump, same species, oak, same approximate age and diameter. I had treated it with the same chemical around the same time. But that stump looked completely different. It was visibly softer. The surface had begun to crumble at the edges. There was healthy fungal growth across the top, which is exactly what you want. That white and gray mycelium threading through the surface wood. Same tree species, same chemical, same amount of time. The results were not even comparable. Think about why that would be. The answer, when I worked it out, came down entirely to surface preparation, not the chemical, the preparation. The second stump had been cut lower to the ground, and at some point, I suspect from earlier chainsaw work on that area, the top surface had been run across with the saw in a rough cross-cut pattern. It was not intentional, but those two things together had changed everything about how the chemical absorbed into the wood and how moisture was retained on the surface. My father was doing this without naming it. He never gave it a name, just showed me with his hands. It is the same principle I have used on every stump since. Let me walk you through it step by step. It has 3 preparation differences from the standard drill hole approach, and each one matters. The first is the cut height. Before you do anything else, take your chainsaw and cut the stump as close to ground level as you safely can. The lower the stump, the less total wood mass you are asking the chemical and the fungi to work through. A stump that stands 8 inches above the soil line has nearly twice the volume of one cut to 2 inches. Less volume means faster result. Cut it down. The second is edge rounding. The outer perimeter of a stump, the bark and the hard cambium layer just beneath it, acts as a protective shell. It resists moisture penetration. It resists chemical absorption. When you leave the stump with its natural edges intact, you are asking the chemical to work against that barrier from the top down only. Round the edges off with your chainsaw. Taper the perimeter so there is no hard vertical face on the outside. This opens the wood to absorption on all sides, not just from the top. The third is the groove pattern, and this is the single most important step. Instead of drilling individual holes, take your chainsaw and cut deep grooves across the entire top surface in a checkerboard pattern. Cut from one side, then rotate and cut perpendicular. The grooves should be deep, at least 3 to 4 inches, and close together, perhaps 6 to 8 inches apart across the full face. What you have created is maximum exposed surface area. Every cut is raw, open heartwood, and because the grooves are channels, not just holes, they pool water. When it rains, when you apply your solution, the liquid sits in those channels and is absorbed over a long period, rather than running off immediately. Drill holes give you perhaps a dozen points of entry. A full checkerboard pattern gives you the entire face of the stump, open and ready. Have you ever tried the Epsom salt method and come back 6 months later to find the stump looked exactly the same? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Now, 4 points before you pick up a saw, and I will not skip them. Chainsaw work this close to the ground carries real risk, more than ordinary cutting. Wear chainsaw-rated chaps, not heavy denim, actual rated leg protection, along with closed boots, gloves, a face shield or safety glasses, and hearing protection. Keep both hands on the saw at all times. Watch the tip of the guide bar constantly. If it touches the wood at the wrong angle, the saw can kick back toward you violently, and that is the single most common way people get hurt doing this. Keep your footing solid and never straddle the stump while cutting. Keep bystanders well back. Children and animals should not be in the work area at all. Second, if you are applying a concentrated stump removal product rather than Epsom salt, read the label carefully. Some commercial stump treatments contain potassium nitrate, which is an oxidizer. Keep it away from anything flammable. Wear nitrile gloves and eye protection when handling it. And if it gets in your eyes, flush with water for 15 minutes and call a doctor. Do not mix it with other chemicals. Third, Epsom salt is not the same as table salt, and it will not sterilize your soil at normal application rates, but apply it only inside the grooves and on the stump surface. Do not spread it into the surrounding bed. In high concentrations near plant roots, any salt will cause damage. 1 practical note. Not a safety point. This method will not work quickly on a live stump that has not been cut from its tree recently. A stump, still connected to a living root system, will continue to draw moisture and resist chemical treatment far longer. The cut should be recent, within the same season is ideal. Now, the honest limitation, and I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me, this method does not produce results in a week. Depending on your climate, the species of tree, and the size of the stump, you are looking at 3 to 6 months for meaningful decomposition in a temperate American summer. In cooler or drier climates, longer. The stump will not disappear. What it will do is become soft enough to break apart with an axe or a mattock. Then you remove the remaining material by hand. You will not need a grinder, but you do need patience Pack your Epsom salt or stump treatment into the grooves generously. Then cover the surface. A piece of plywood weighted down or a heavy tarp secured at the edges will slow evaporation and keep the material working instead of washing out in the next rain. Leave it. Check it monthly when you can press your thumb into the surface and feel the wood give, not hard like green wood, but soft like damp paper. That is when you begin breaking it apart. Soft stump, covered grooves, walk away. That is the condition you want. When you come back and find that surface crumbling, use a mattock or a heavy pick to break it apart in sections. Work from the center outward. The root system will still be in the ground, but it will have been cut off from new growth, and the decomposition will follow the roots over the next season. Fill the remaining hole with clean soil and compost. The bed is ready. This is not a complicated process. The preparation takes an hour per stump, perhaps 2 hours for a large one. The materials: Epsom salt, a tarp, and a chainsaw you likely already own. Cost around $30 to $40 for a full property treatment spread across multiple stumps. The result is a stump gone from your property, without a grinding truck, without a service call, and without waiting indefinitely for something that was never going to work. My father called this reading the wood. It means the material itself tells you what it needs, how to open it, how to treat it, how to let time finish what your hands began. That is what the checkerboard groove does. The stump correctly instead of asking the stump to work around a handful of narrow holes. 25 stumps, $30 to $40. One method: prepare the wood correctly first. The condition of your soil is the condition of your garden. That is the principle this channel is built on. Next time, I am going to show you how to use the decomposed wood and enriched soil from a removed stump to build one of the most productive planting beds in your garden. It is the natural next step after this video. Until then, cut your stump low, run the grooves deep, and remember, the right answer is usually cheaper, simpler, and older than the thing being sold to you.